Hello and welcome back. Now, look, we've all got things that we're into. We've all got interests. We've all got little peccadillos, perhaps things that other people won't understand. And ultimately, we're not all built the same. Indeed, dare I say it, a number of us are actually pretty unique. Now, on this channel, I've been working and dealing in the world of network attached storage for a while. And I'm always looking for something interesting and quirky to talk about here, and particularly in the world of network attached storage. Which is why today I want to talk about this. This is the PixelMob, one of the most mobile NAS devices I've ever seen. And this is pretty much giving you this in a compact form. This is a prototype of the PixelMob, and we will be doing a fuller review on this in the coming months. But this is an RK chip powered 3 M.2 NVMe 2.5 gig USB 4 fully LCD controllable NAS device with HDMI in and out, as well as multiple SD card slots there on the rear, and is effectively a complete production device. And all of this managed by a myriad of tools, including those for backup and synchronization, not only against the multiple inputs detailed around the device, but also managed from the LCD and the mobile application and the desktop tools as well. And we've already talked about the Unified Drive NAS software previously here on the channel. It's pretty bloody comprehensive. And that CPU under the bonnet is actually two ARM processors, the A76 and the A55. Again, technically 8 cores combined with 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5 memory, managing those 3 M.2 NVMe slots inside at 3x1, and with 64 gig of onboard storage for the operating system. There's a lot going on here underneath the bonnet, and with the device arriving with not only full backup and synchronization tools natively built into the device there on the front for all of the individual ports and connections around the device, but alongside that, more client applications for photo and video editing, not just backing up, but that combined with HDMI in and out located there on the top, that allows you to run your camera feed directly into this and having a backup operation happening in real time during the record, depending on your camera setup. And all of that with an 11,600 milliamp battery inside, as well as support of a UPS power failover and docking station connection coming very, very soon. This is an incredibly intriguing NAS device, not just because it's more than just a NAS with a phone stapled on the front, but it is genuine control. However, it ain't going to be for everyone. This is a prototype. We already talked about a device like this here on the channel. Do you remember this? The UP6? This was their 6x M.2 NVMe Intel Core powered NAS system with 10 gig networking, USB 4 and more. This is a scaled down variation of that, but it's also designed for production. We talked about it during NAB over in Vegas back in April 2026, where we saw a camera feed going directly into this and the camera feed recording live and also recording to the bay inside there. Indeed, the third M.2 NVMe bay inside is connected directly onto that USB 4 port there for direct connectivity. In my own testing, I got this connected to my Windows system, and although this is still a prototype running prototype software, I was still able to achieve over 2,000 megabytes per second throughput between my PC and this device. Something I found kind of weird, given it is a Gen 3x1 lane M.2 NVMe, but the brand says that that is something that's being optimized, and chances are it's because it was also utilizing the internal storage, although it is eMMC, so I'll have to look into that more. And the other two M.2 NVMe bays inside the system take advantage of that UDR mode that we've talked about previously. This allows you to create an interesting area of storage that, although both drives are in parity together, the space is allocated in the mirrored area granularly. The result being you don't automatically lose all of the storage, and it's only pairing together data as it goes on shared folders. And we talked about that in previous videos, but ultimately This is a very intriguing device. It's not finished, as I'll talk about later on in the video, but I love the bloody idea of it. But one thing we have got to talk about, and it is a very hot day here in the summer in the UK, cooling. Because let's face it, most of us, the reason that this Franken thing that I just built here on the table doesn't exist is because of heat. Now, you may have picked it up on the mic, so I'm going to bring this closer. It does have an internal fan. And there is a single fan operating there in the rear above the CPU. The M.2s at Gen 3 times 1 shouldn't generate too much heat, but I will say that cooling is going to make or break this device. There is an absolute ton of ventilation on practically every side of this device, but that is going to make a difference. Now, when I was going through it, going through some of the operating system, I have seen, I think, about 4 or 5 major updates of the OS during my testing of this, and there has been optimization on top of optimization. Still, nonetheless, one of my earliest criticisms of this, and you'll see in the screen recording shortly, is the line between the Android platform that it's running on and the Unified Drive apps and services. Because, you know, as much as we dress this up, this is still technically kind of a mobile phone with a NAS on the back end. It's a very interesting NAS and a very contactable NAS, but it is still a mobile connected to a NAS. But it's how those things are bridged what's important. Now, backup operations on this device weren't just very smooth, they were actually kind of impressive. What do I mean by that? Well, I was running backup operations using the onboard software for a micro SD card and a connected USB drive there. Not only did I see sustained performance of between 350 and 450 megabytes per second, sometimes even going higher than that, I will highlight that a lot of the background checks, the integrity checks that were going on, and indeed the real-time information that is displayed on the front of the device was pretty bloody good. And then afterwards, every backup allows you to generate a log report of the backups that you've been going for, whether they're differential or a full-time backup all the way through, and dismount the drives if you choose. As well as any drive that you connect to this for the first time will also present on the system screen the option for you to run this as a backup, create a backup operation there and then, something scheduled, or just ad hoc as you go. With each of the individual ports and connections there on the top having their own icon there to let you know that they're functional. The USB 4 I couldn't use for anything more than external storage, so I wasn't able to connect a USB 4 drive to this and then run a backup onto the op. That USB 4 port there was only used in my testing, or at least supported in my testing, with a USB 4 client system to transfer that data over. Now, the HDMI in and out is largely going to be utilized alongside the media apps on board. So the media apps, you have got a myriad of different tools and bells and whistles there to deal with your data on this. Now, the majority of them are, of course, based on Android architecture, but the interface still needs work. The interface for this and this op, I wish I could attach a keyboard and a mouse, for example, so I could just run the system here and then run and do a lot of that editing with a micro keyboard and mouse. The thing is, the PixelMob is not trying to be just a mobile NAS. It is a mobile NAS, just like the devices that came before it. And for me, that's what this is. But I know what PixelMob and Unified Drive behind it are trying to design here is a mobile editing workstation. That's why all of the software is included. That's why you've got the HDMI in and out. That's why you've got a lot of the injection methods of different storage media, as well as USB 4 direct connectivity. This is designed for users that have finished the shoot and now want to perform some of the editing on the fly. And with a robust hardware base, although efficient for the hardware, it has to be said, it is a great little option here, and I really am interested to see where they're going to go with this, because I do enough production on the road. I'm looking for mobile NAS devices for me to save and be more efficient with my time. But the idea that some of my projects could be edited on the same device I'm backing up to, which is also simultaneously creating a backup of my recorded feed from my DJI or my Canon at the same time as synchronizing with the cloud, and all of that on battery power to save me time and reinvent my workflow. Colour me impressed. We still don't have the final product here. This is still a prototype, and I want to see if what they are promising here can be envisioned. But still, the idea of a system for content creators, for producers, photo, video, or just content production in general to save time and feel safe in backups, colour me intrigued. this can be connected not only wirelessly via Wi-Fi 6 and via a 2.5 gig network port there on the top, but it can also generate its own Wi-Fi. It can generate its own hotspot. And in that case, it means that when you've got a bunch of connected users, you can stick this in the middle and make it accessible to a bunch of editors on the go. Whether it is that you are running a camera feed directly into this, and therefore all of those users are editing work once it's backed up onto the system and synchronized between the third M.2 bay and maybe the other two in a RAID, or even a connected drive. This is a lovely little bridging device when it's finished. Now, what do I mean by finished? I'll say right now that although this screen here gives me plenty of information about the available storage within the system, the connected devices, my backup operations, and going through some of the bells and whistles and stuff that I've accrued during the course of those backups, as well as listing other connected drives as they appear, I will say after this, the blurred lines between Android and their software is pretty hard going. So for example, the Unified Drive application that you can install on your own mobile or desktop device is there. And this is pretty much all the NAS control you're ever going to need. You've got system management, network management, user creation. Everything you're ever going to need is built into that application there. You can do it all, and I've praised this application before in my other videos about the UP6, the UC450, and the original Unified Drive UT2. All of the control is there, but I will say it clearly isn't optimized yet for this device. That mobile backup there, that's from the mobile app. That needs to go. This app needs to be more tailored towards this specific user case environment there. The ability to manage a lot of the files and access, as well as playing files directly from within this device. So for example, if we go ahead and find ourselves a video file, let's go for some of my Computex coverage there. There's an MP4. Let's have a look. A lot of the business card stuff I was doing from the show for a video I'm working on at the moment about trade shows. Let's go for another MP4 there. That was some of the other devices. And again, you've got the volume control, as well as, I forgot to add, you also have an audio jack here as well for you to access and play some of these files there on the fly in the background. So it's all good. But as I say, the blurred lines, for every single application and service that I utilize on this device that is clearly related to Unified Drive, every now and then I come across Android stuff. Every now and then, for example, if my instinct is to pull from the top of the screen, these Android menus and stuff like that, that's got to go. And I know this is a device currently going through development, and this is a prototype. But it's the blurring and the controls of their two separate ecosystems that for me aren't merging as well as they could. Now, the other apps and bells and whistles, they're pretty good. The ones that are included either include a lot of these video editing applications that we talked about before, or they're ones that are related to the NAS side of things for setting the device up. And support of third-party applications does make sense in the context as if you're going to post on social media. Use something like CapCut to edit things on the fly. That is an example of something I think people might well use when backing up multiple devices to this device and managing a lot of the social sharing there. Still, nonetheless, I'm not sure how much of this people are going to use. For example, a sequence application, for those familiar with Adobe Photoshop Elements, is probably going to be quite appealing. The fact that you can really edit a lot of this stuff post-production. One of my original praises I ever gave to mobile NAS devices like the UT2 that came before it was that it allowed you to take advantage of dead zone time. That is time where when you're waiting for a backup to happen, when you're traveling between different jobs, this allows you to not only back up your data, but then start working directly on it. I wonder how much you'll be able to do on a rock chip architecture, that RK chip inside there, but a lot of these apps and services are very specialized, and I do wonder what percentage of people are going to use them. A great one, as mentioned, is the DEC application. This is the one where you can take advantage of that the video input and output that allows you to connect this directly to your active camera and therefore start taking advantage of direct storage backup and then tiered backup towards the rest of the system on the fly. Other things such as Framebox, which allows you to add annotations to videos. therefore allowing you to share and add notes to footage on the fly for when other team members deal with it. Other stuff like the shot designer, again, very specialized, but allows you to go ahead and start planning your different photo shoots, your workflow, and this in a shared board environment where other people with their mobile apps can play with it and therefore start setting up a shoot on the fly. Cones, a photo editor, again, fairly robust and does a lot of stuff there in the background and allows you to start playing with and editing a lot of these files on the fly with different tools all available at your fingertips. And the whole thing, if you're familiar with Android or even iOS, you'll know how all of this works. It's just, I don't like how blurry the lines are between Android and Unified Drive here, because it does bring into question for some users that want to see the value here of the optimized software. But again, this is a very early prototype, and therefore it's not really fair of me to judge it yet until I see it completely RC and ready to rock. This device is simply not finished. The brand didn't say it is, and it was sent to me as a prototype. So I'm going to go easy on it and say right now that it is dripping in potential. The potential to create the best mobile NAS device I've ever seen. The potential to bridge an external drive and a NAS in its perfect, most efficient form. I'll give it that. And if they can nail the utility of that HDMI in and out, that will be completely unique in the NAScape. This is a capture card. It's a mobile router. It's a DAS. It's a NAS. It is a full backup opt tool for when you're on the road. But it's just not finished yet. When it is, then we're going to have to evaluate it proper. Now, the brands say that they are taking this to Kickstarter relatively soon. They are targeting a price tag in the 3 figures. They weren't prepared to go in much more detail than that. So make of that what you will. I will say, if you had to ask me what I would pay for an 3 M.2 NAS with USB 4, 12 gig of RAM, that ARM processor inside, an internal battery for failover, 2.5 gig SD card slots. For that NAS hardware, without any of the screen bump for any of the other stuff, I'd probably sit around 500 to 600 nicker for that. But that would be a desktop NAS. And once you factor in Wi-Fi connectivity, additional storage, and of course, the client management and apps and services, no doubt that'll add a few hundred as well, but that is genuinely just a full guesstimate on my part. I do hope cooling-wise, perhaps they could look into other ways of doing it, because notwithstanding you do have full fan control and the noise that we've already talked about, I will say I do have my concerns about just how effective that cooling will be if I was running a backup op at the same time as running a recording, and just how well this is going to be tailored towards doing lots of things at the same time rather than 1, maybe 2 at any given time. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to come back to this when we see a full release candidate and either full release or at the very least a sign off of the final hardware. But for now, the PixelMob for me, it's just very, very interesting. Let's talk about this more in the comments below and let me know what you guys want to see from this, whether you are the target user for this or maybe you don't think there is a market for this. Let's talk about this below. But thank you so much for watching and I'll see you on the next video.